El doctor Robert Duncan, que fue doctorado en el MIT y en Harvard, trabajó para varias organizaciones oficiales como son la CIA, la OTAN, DARPA, etc. Pero después de descubrir que los proyectos en los que estaba colaborando y trabajando se estaban utilizando en contra de los ciudadanos, lo dejó todo y se convirtió en un denunciante. Ahora es blanco de la tecnología y las armas que él mismo inventó y vive escondido del mundo actual. Explica en sus libros y entrevistas que, como dije en un vídeo anterior, se está utilizando esta tecnología sobre la población mundial, en algunos objetivos de manera experimental, pero en otros como ataque por ser objetivos rebeldes de la sociedad, peligrosos informantes de planes ocultos, de agendas que los controladores tienen preparadas o que ya están utilizando. En una interesante entrevista que le hicieron, habla sobre estas tecnologías y cómo funcionan. Además, en otra conferencia habla sobre el proyecto Blue Beam, que utilizará esa tecnología de voces en la cabeza, así como proyección de imágenes en el cielo y naves reales que ya poseen los controladores.
The voice of God is a broad categorization, both audio techniques, and one's called LRAD, Long Range Acoustical Device, which again can go for a long distance. No speaker can do that. You know, it's a type of acoustical array. And then there's the microwave hearing effect. Dr. Frey first invented it, and there's a Dr. Lin in the University of Chicago that has also done work on it. And this is a strange effect that if microwaves are high-frequency radio waves and interact with the brain, it heats it slightly, and then it cools, heats it slightly. And this is done in the extremely low frequency range, and humans can hear voices clicking, music can be piped into it with different levels of sensitivity, and it depends on the power range window. And that's one type of voice of God weapon. It often, the Army calls it B2K, voice to skull. They removed it from their website because of all the people that are complaining about it. So that's one aspect. Then there's more sophisticated weaponry that we use brain prints. Everyone has a unique fingerprint. Even more so, you have a unique thought pattern. And so we can cognitively model certain aspects, like a fingerprint of your brain print, if we can get a sample of your MEG, which is called magnetoencephalograph, or your EEG, electroencephalograph, reading your brain waves, the electricity and the magnetic radiance that it gives off. Now again, people have difficulty believing we've gone from brain chips, which they used to do in the 1960s with a guy named Dr. Delgado, and he's known as he was a Yale professor in the School of Medicine for neurology, and he would experiment with humans by inserting electrodes into their brain. He could create any type of emotion. He could move their bodies in certain ways. Very brutal, but that was allowed during the Cold War. He even inserted brain chips to do it remotely, just radio frequency brain chips. His most famous experiment was using a bull, and I don't know if he actually was in the ring with the bull, and he was the matador, but with the press of the button, as the bull charged, would suddenly stop. And that really impressed, obviously, many people in government. How do you control humans? How can we use this for violent criminals, for example? And a whole plethora of opportunities arose, but the research remains dark because we, moral people, would not accept it. Now, in one experiment when I was with DARPA, we were working on the Soldier 2000 project. I went with a bunch of guys with brass and flare, whatever you want to call it, lots of medals, high-ranking guys. We went into Mass General Hospital and asked for patients with no family, with dementia, and we needed to experiment on them. But anytime you give money away or get it from the government, you have to have dual uses. So we said they might walk away, not know where they are. We want to track them. Now that was the cover story. We were really looking at a full body land of all vital signs for soldiers in the future. Well, that was in 2000. Obviously, we've progressed quite a bit since then. And they gave it to us. Just human beings being trafficked.
There's been such an incredible history of what the United States has done in terms of experimentation.
And this is just what they were caught doing. There was a Dr. Ewan Cameron, head of the World Psychiatry Community, and he had CIA funding. He took housewives that had mild depression, played 2-track loop tapes, gave them drugs, LSD, I believe, and the 2-track tapes were very negative. Your family hates you, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to get into the details. It's very awful and evil. And their personalities would be erased in a couple weeks. One woman sued, she got money, and she had to learn how to talk and pee again. So that's literally brainwashing. You're de-patterning the brain's cultural background, everything it's learned. Then the second half comes in, and that's programming. And then you build up new personalities. The CIA does this for split personality assassins, but it's for splitting personalities. It's also used in a variety of interrogation techniques for high-value targets. So yes, there's a long history of experimenting on the vulnerable people. Usually people can be discredited. We would feed Down syndrome children radioactive cereal, for example, to see how frequently cancers would arise. The list is numerous with syphilis. We can go into feedback into the mind. Imagine the possibilities, so I'm gonna close up here, and this is very controversial. I know. So Revelations 18:23, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. And you know, there's something similar to that by Arthur C. Clarke. Any sufficiently advanced technology appears like magic to a lesser civilization. And where I'm getting with this is Reagan had a speech at the United Nations, and he made it at least 3 times. And he said, if aliens were attacking us, if we would give up our differences and we'd fight the aliens. And he was just trying to make a point. Maybe a new world order is something we need to think about. We shouldn't have these wars. You know, it's an interesting way to put it, but that's how we try. Usually governments create fear, terrorism, whatever it may be, and then we all got to stick together. And that gets into, you know, false flags. And so Project Bluebeam, which is just rumor, this is true conspiracy theory here, although I know it's possible, that somebody apparently from NASA leaked this as something they were working on. And telepathy, electronic two-way communications, Well, we have that now, and that's very scary if you never experienced it. Making humanity think an alien invasion is about to occur at every major city. Well, we have holograms in the sky. I describe that technology. And they talked about other things that might make this come about. But all I am saying is beware. So, for example, I'm going to say something controversial. I love crop circles. I think they're just beautiful art. And the effort to make them is incredible. But I happen to have known of a few gents back in America that were engineers and artists. And they built a machine. It was all automated, GPS run. They would do the design. And they built a 10-mile crop circle in Nevada. You could only see from airplanes or satellites. And it was gorgeous. It was gorgeous. But I was impressed by the engineering. I don't know if they're real or not.
La tecnología V2K, voces en la cabeza e imágenes en la cabeza del objetivo, existe y hay un enlace que nos lleva a estas patentes que están en esta página web. En la patente del sistema de imagen sónica enfocada dice lo siguiente: una onda sónica chirriada o de frecuencia modulada pasa a través de una lente dispersiva cuya distancia focal varía con la frecuencia. Por lo tanto, las diferentes frecuencias en la onda sónica se enfocan a diferentes profundidades en el objetivo. La energía reflejada se aplica a un filtro de paso de banda para responder a la profundidad particular que se recibe. En la patente llamada aparato y método para monitorizar y alterar las ondas cerebrales a distancia, se dice lo siguiente: aparato y método para detectar ondas cerebrales en una posición alejada de un sujeto, mediante el cual se transmiten simultáneamente señales electromagnéticas de diferentes frecuencias al cerebro del sujeto objetivo. En la patente llamada Sistema y método de mensajes subliminales auditivos dice lo siguiente: las señales de audio ambiental del área de compras del cliente dentro de una tienda se detectan y se alimentan a un circuito de procesamiento de señales que produce una señal de control que varía con las variaciones en la amplitud de las señales de audio detectadas. En otra patente se dice lo siguiente: otros dispositivos o métodos para provocar un cambio en el estado de conciencia, dispositivos para producir o interrumpir el sueño por medios mecánicos, ópticos o acústicos, por ejemplo para la hipnosis.